So we're going to talk this morning a little bit about DevOps and groupthink. Is it an oxymoron? So I'm going to start with a little story. Well, if it's not, I guess I'll just...
You just had this work?
All right, well.
Or you tab?
Yeah, I guess I can just tab. Thanks, though. So, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a king, CEO. And this CEO decided that they were bringing out a whole new company name. And to combine 6 companies, he wanted the 6 companies' websites combined into one in the space of 2 weeks. Well, the feature teams gathered and huddled. The developer said, "No way, we can't make that." But nobody said anything. The operations folks, the infrastructure will never support it. But they didn't say anything. And the testers, oh my God. But they didn't say anything. So the night before everybody's rushing around, the day of the reveal dawns, the new company name comes out, and the website crashes down. So why did this happen? Well, I think it happened because of groupthink. So what is groupthink anyway? Well, it was a term. Well, let me tell you first what we're going to learn in this presentation. We're going to learn about what groupthink is and how to identify it. We're going to see if groupthink can be something that is a problem to DevOps teams, and we're going to talk a little bit on how to overcome it. So what is groupthink? It was a term that was coined by Irving Janus in 1972, a mode of thinking that people engage in when they are deeply involved in a cohesive in-group. That's a team. And when members' strivings for unanimity, they all want the same thing, override their motivation to realistically appraise the appropriate courses of action. Now, what that actually means is a phenomenon where people tend to conform to the group so as not to be outcast. Simple as that. So let's look at some of the characteristics of groupthink. Well, you have the illusion of invulnerability. You know what that is? Oh yeah, we can do it, sure. We have self-censorship. Teams will, no, you know, if you're always saying that we can't do it, well, we're not really going to talk to you anymore, you know? They stereotype the outgroups, and they put direct pressure on dissenters. So these are some of the things that you might see. Now, is DevOps, is it an oxymoron for DevOps? Can this really happen on teams that are made up of multi-disciplines? Well, I think it can, because, you know, all teams have strong leaders. All teams have biases and mindsets, especially in groups that are cohesive, and team members are kind of protective of their areas of expertise. So, and of course, formal and informal leaders emerge, so it can happen anywhere. So what are some of the specific things that you would see? You might see in a DevOps team. You could see the illusion of invulnerability. The team consistently in agreement, not having much discussion. And then the collective rationalization, like the teams in the example I told you about. They'll self-center during the meetings and during the team discussions. So how does groupthink happen? Well, there's informational signals that any group puts out. The group members with differing opinions tend to hold back out of respect for somebody that they think knows better than they, basically. There's social pressures. You know, you don't want to be seen as the stick in the mud, the one that's rocking the boat, that just doesn't want to do whatever, doesn't want to believe that we can do it like everybody else believes. And then finally, you've got the leaders, you've got the strong leaders, you've got the informal leaders. So then why does this happen? Because there's really three aspects to it. Group members have mindsets, sometimes, that impede their ability to think critically. And then group members also, they interact, and that amplifies individual biases. And then finally, coming from those two, the group discussion dissolves into failures of deliberation. So what I want to do now is tell you a little bit about each of those three things, and then we'll talk about what to do about it. So what's a mindset? Well, mindset was developed by psychologist Carol Dweck. She recently published a book on that. A mindset is how we mentally approach our life and its challenges. Some of the things she identified showed us why brains and talent don't always bring success and can actually impede it, and why praising brains and talent doesn't actually help self-esteem, but it actually jeopardizes it. There are two types of mindsets. There's the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Now, the fixed mindset has some characteristics. Well, we're either smart or dumb. We have to continually prove ourselves to prove that we are, in fact, smart. And people with fixed mindsets take failure as a personal affront to their intelligence. So some of the characteristics you might see here, the implications, well, I did my job. I don't know, everybody else screwed up. What about the builds negatively are impacting the network resources? Then somebody else would say, well, the network resources need to be able to handle the builds. Know people like that? You know people who have a fixed mindset? Yeah. So then let's look at a growth mindset. A growth mindset, basically, is where you find people that see failures as an opportunity to learn. That's really the big characteristic on the growth mindset. They work to improve, and they believe that their intelligence is not fixed, that they can learn and become more intelligent as they learn, and believe that what they have right now is a starting point. Now, some of the implementations of that in a group was, I always have more to learn. Yeah, I missed that bug. But I worked to understand why, and we can change things working together. So how do the mindsets affect groupthink? Well, if you have one or more fixed mindsets in a team, you're going to have the clashes. And then you're going to have people that don't want to change their mind, and if that person is the leader, you're going to have groupthink. So let's talk a little bit about biases. Biases, the whole theory of biases, it was Kaheman and Tversky. They talked about System 1 and System 2 thinking. And there's at least 100 biases that have been identified. But there's two particular ones that tend to pertain to groupthink. One of them is representativeness. Now, representativeness is when you tend to make decisions based on situations that are similar to the one at hand. So if we always needed 6 weeks to test, well, maybe we're going to need 6 weeks to test. Then the other one that tends to affect group interactions is the confirmation biases. People will base their decision more strongly on information that they believe supports their own opinion. Sometimes it could be, well, I think the website can be ready, right? They don't want to look at the developers think, well, we can get it done, and this is why, because we got it done before, yet the infrastructure people don't agree. So the groupthink amplifies those biases or group interactions. Now, all of this leads to failures in deliberation. And there's two types of failures in deliberation that are particularly important in groupthink. That's the cascade effect and polarization. So the cascade effect happens because human beings conform, they desire to conform. Members of the group will tend to take the views of the initial speaker or the strong leader and not want to challenge that and not think critically. So, you'll go around the room, well, do you agree? Yeah? Not really. Do you agree? Yeah. So in that will kind of give it a whole cascade effect that the group can actually come to a decision that's really not the best course of action. Then there's polarization. Now, polarization happens, maybe we all kind of have moderate views, but as the group starts to deliberate, instead of coming to a consensus, somebody that says we can do it, somebody else says we can't, they tend to get more set in their ways as they go along, so the group tends to split apart and become polarized at either ends. So how do we manage this? Well, I see it as three ways. We need as individuals to manage it. We also need to work together as a group to recognize the signs and manage them. And then externally, we can use CDE to manage. So, managing groupthink individually. As individuals, we need to listen. If we strive for 80% listening and 20% talking, we can get a lot further in understanding what our colleagues are saying. Listen to yourself. If you really have information that's telling you the decision's wrong, then say it. If we keep quiet when we know a decision isn't the right decision, that's how it's going to happen. And finally, manage our own mindset. Try to be the growth mindset that looks at failures as opportunities to learn and are willing to try new things. So as a team, we can manage groupthink. We build a diverse team, and we have that in DevOps, which is a great thing. Try to establish a group growth mindset. In the beginning of your meetings, we can always kind of just set that as a goal, that we're all going to listen to each other and work together. And we want to make sure that we don't make a decision until each team member has spoken and had a chance to individually voice their plan, their thoughts. And finally, sometimes set up and pick somebody to be the devil's advocate, somebody who's going to say, okay, and really the leader of the team should often the leader really should speak last. And they should say, okay, we all seem to be in agreement. Well, what's wrong with this decision? Ask people what's going wrong with this decision. And that will kind of help manage it as a group. Now, finally, if we're really still seeing it happen, outside of the group, there is a theory called CDE. It's containers, differences, and exchanges. And this can be used to manage groupthink from outside the team. So this is a theory that's an organizational behavior theory, and it was developed by Carol Eoyang. And it basically gives managers the way of managing the team's organization using these three factors: the container, the difference, and the exchange. So that will give the opportunity to alter how the team thinks and acts as a group. So let's look at each one of these. So the container is the system that binds the group in which the system forms. The DevOps container would be the physical space, if we're co-located. Even if we're not, we still are within our teams based on what we're working on, the scope of responsibility of the team, and also the size of the team. Now, the difference refers to the individual characteristics of the team members. So in the DevOps team, you have the operations folks, the test folks, the technical backgrounds of the developers, and then we also have the domain, the length of service with the company, and the individual mindsets too. Those are all differences. And then there's the exchange. And the exchange is, how does the group members, how do they interact among themselves and with their stakeholders? You know, are they open-minded and willing to listen to each other? Or do they clash? Or does somebody be the leader that kind of just leans on everybody? And those things can be modified. So usually what managers can do, they can look at these factors, evaluate how the exchanges impact the team, how they work, is it not negative, positive, neutral, and from there, they can make some changes. So if the container isn't working, maybe it's a professional community. Maybe people need to get out in the community, get to conferences like this, and become a little more open-minded. If the groupthink seems to be happening because you have one person with a strong personality, maybe you need to add a team member who has an equally strong personality, or maybe move that person to another team. And as far as the exchange, well, maybe the team's not getting enough feedback. So implement some more meetings that get more feedback. Make sure the stakeholders know what's going on and give their feedback more often. So, in summary, groupthink is a danger for any specialized team, any close-knit team. When DevOps teams engage in groupthink, your continuous integration can be compromised. Managers and leaders should counteract groupthink using CDE, and collaboration of a group is really important. Collaborate as a group, but think as an individual. Thank you.
All right, so we definitely have time for questions. If anyone has any questions, go ahead. You can either raise your hand or come up to the microphone.
Everybody's hungry?
Well, lucky for you guys, I do know that the food is actually ready then. So with that, thank you, Gerie.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.